Hey, and welcome to the Vintage Hen House. I'm Claire, and today we're going to be talking about the juicy topic of money. Now, this is obviously just a napkin. It's pretty cool, right? So the biggest mistakes and the biggest things that trip up hen party groups, in my experience, it always comes down to money. Whether it's setting the budget early on or it's collecting deposits from the hens, it's one of the biggest factors that can cause a lot of problems for hen groups. So what better way than to talk about it today and to give you my top tips to try and help make that part of the planning so much simpler. So we're going to take it back to basics, and the first tip that I'm going to share with you today is all about setting the hen budget early. Now, this should be done like pretty much as soon as you know roughly who can make the date, if I'm honest. Purely because if you don't, you're going to spend time getting activity ideas together, getting quotes from people to put it all back to the group, and then to find out that certain people in the group probably won't be able to go because they can't afford it, and it just creates delays and headaches for you. So what I would suggest that you do is, when you have an idea of who's coming to the hen party, just have that conversation with people. Just say, what can you afford to pay? What would you be prepared to pay for the hen party? Because it gives you a much better idea and indication of the sorts of things you can do for your hen party based on what people are willing to pay. Obviously, there's factors to include: if it's going to be a weekend, if there's going to be overnight accommodation, if it's going to be held a little bit away from everyone's home. There's lots of different things. It could even be that you're going abroad and you've got to factor the cost of flights and things into it. But at least it gives you something to work with for when you start planning the hen party. So once you've set the budget, that makes that part a lot simpler, and your planning should start to head off on the right foot. Now, the next top tip that I can share with you is all about when it's time to start collecting people's deposits. Now, obviously a deposit, I don't know about other hen party companies, but for me, it's what secures the hen party date. Now, it's really important that you get that in place so that, you can rest assured you've got your hen party date secure, and you don't even need to worry about anything until the balance is due. Now, for hen parties booked through us at the Vintage Hen House, a deposit is required to secure the date, and the balance isn't due until 2 weeks before the hen party date. But obviously it may vary depending on who you go with to book your hen party. But it's all about getting that deposit in place. Now, one thing I would say is, don't pay for other people. Make sure everybody pays their deposit themselves. It might sound like common sense, but I've had it before from hen groups where they've paid for everybody, expecting everybody to come, and then when it's come to the deposit, or the balance rather, being due, certain hens have said they can't make it, and then the person that's paid has lost out. So I would say make sure that everybody pays for themselves. It might be that if some people are sitting on the fence a little bit, they're not sure if they're going to be able to make the hen party, that actually they can pay their part when the balance is due. I know that works for me. So, for example, I get inquiries from people and they say, oh, we've got 10 hens that can definitely come, we might have 2 more nearer the time. That's fine. Pay the deposit for the 10 hens, and then when the balance is due 2 weeks beforehand, if those other 2 hens are able to come, they can pay their 2 parts in full at that point. That way nobody has lost out, because there's nothing worse than paying out a lot of money for people to then have the issues later on when they can't make it and you're left out of pocket. So yes, tip number 2, make sure that everybody pays for themselves. There's more of a commitment that way as well, because when you put money down, you're sort of more committed to want to go ahead with going. My third tip is in relation to when the balance is due. Now, collecting money from hens is a nightmare, and I'm sure you're going to discover it's probably one of the things that's going to be the biggest delay that you have in your planning journey. So one thing I would say, because there's always going to be somebody that pays you late, when you get given your due date for when the balance is due by, extend it by a couple of days, and basically get everybody to pay you 2 or 3 days ahead of when it's actually due. That way, if you get somebody that pays you a little bit late, which 9 times out of 10 you may, you're covered, and you've basically got all the money together for when it's due by. So it's my little sneaky tip there, just to cover those that do end up paying late. So we've covered 3 things so far. We've covered setting the budget early, we've covered not paying for anybody else's deposit and letting everybody pay for themselves, and we've also covered extending the date that the balance is due by a couple of days, just so that you can get everybody's money in early. I would say, first of all, it's not difficult to have these conversations with people. I think you've got to have it up front just so that you can get the hen party planning process sorted. And there's nothing worse than going through all the rigmarole of planning a hen party to have people pull out because of money. But what happens if you've got people in your group that can afford some of it but not all of it. This happens quite a lot, so I would suggest that it's worth checking with who you book your hen party with, whether or not people can do some of the activities and not all of them. So for example, with our hen parties, sometimes there can be as many as 4 different activities involved. So you might have some hens that say, look, I can do the hair and makeup and I'd like the afternoon tea, but I don't really want to do the dance class. Well, that's absolutely fine. We can put them forward for the other 2 activities, and then they don't have to be part of the dance group. So there are ways that you can work if you've got certain hens within a group that can't quite afford everything but still want to be a part of the hen party. So that's just another thing worth bearing in mind. So there are a few little tips of mine to get you started today on the big juicy topic of money. There'll be plenty more tips and tricks to do with hen party budgets coming up in the videos over the coming weeks, as well as ideas and inspiration for stylish hen parties. In the meantime though, head on over to our website, vintagehenhouse.co.uk. There you'll find real life hen parties, ideas and tips and inspiration, as well as of course our hen party collections and hen shop. And until the next video, I shall see you soon.